What's important to me is relationships. And HD Supply has had a relationship with me for many years. Anytime I worked at a hotel, I was general manager, developer, whatever I was doing, I call HD Supply, and they have over 100,000 products. Anytime I need anything, whether it be logo items, whether it be guest room supplies, whatever it is, they're there. I need an oven or I need a bathrobe, they're there. They have over 100 certified master hotel supply professionals to help you. Real people that have worked in hotels so they can help you and really understand what you're going through. They have the tools, the technology, and the specialized service. And I truly believe in them. First time I spoke to HD Supply, I said, we have 0 listeners by advertising for us. And said, well, usually we need to know how many listeners you have. And what I said is, we may have 1 or we may have 1 million. We don't know. Give us a shot. They did that. That's loyalty. So whether they're supplying your hotel or whether they're being a loyal friend after all these years, they're the company that I go to bat with.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the podcast, and I am Glenn Haussman, your co-host, but most importantly, we have Mr. Anthony Melchiorri, who's the king of the podcast. How are you, sir?
King of the podcast?
That's right.
Holy hopping snot bat, man.
Yeah, well, we've been at this for a little while now, so you are now the king. I dubbed thee.
Okay. How about if I wanted to be the queen of the podcast?
That's very sexy, I think, first of all.
But you should have seen his face. Yeah.
Well, it took me a little while to have some sort of comeback there. All right.
So I'm going to take this hostage for the first time ever. Glenn usually introduces us, and we're going to do something different. We're going to say surprise topic of the day. So Glenn has no idea what's going to come out of my mouth.
I never know what's coming out of your mouth, so it's going to be just fine.
So about 12 hours ago, something incredible happened. Whatever side of the political spectrum you're on. Something incredible happened. North Korea and the United States shook hands.
Well, let's see if by the time this show airs, if they are still shaking hands.
I said they shook hands 12 hours ago,
yes.
Right? So I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
It's Ask Glenn a Question Day.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Do you ever see us vacationing in North Korea?
Not in the foreseeable future, no.
How long is the foreseeable future? Future.
I think that 10, 15, 20 years, I think, is reasonable. I know that seems like a long time, but I don't think it's all that long of a time.
But how do you think it'll change travel at all in the next, say, 5 years?
Well, I'll ask you this question. How has travel to Cuba really changed things? It seemed to be kind of there for a few minutes and then kind of fell off people's radar, and then everything started closing up again.
Well, I think because it started closing up again.
I don't know. People's enthusiasm for me, from my point of view, not for me. I'm enthusiastic. I'd love to go to Cuba, for example. I would totally be into going to North Korea. But I felt like the fervor about it started to drop off. One of the major airlines actually had to cut back on flights because there wasn't enough demand to it. Maybe it was a little bit confusing to people, the whole thing. But looking at that as a model, I don't know. It doesn't really have anything that people want to see or do that's different. At least Vietnam, for example, has got great golf courses.
Halong Bay is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Well, when Donald Trump came into office, he said that he's going to cut travel to Cuba, and everybody got nervous and concerned and didn't know what the hell's going on. I still don't know what's going on. I don't know if you can get to Cuba easily anymore, like you did a year ago. I don't even know.
I think there are some flights, but I'm really not so sure.
Right.
But I really still want to go before anything actually changes over there because it's so interesting and historic and a snapshot in time that I want to witness.
Right. In the 50s, Cuba was South Beach, right?
Yeah.
Cuba was the hottest spot you can go to. So everyone's like, hey, I want to get back to that. I want to see what it's about. I want to enjoy the culture. I want to see it. So in 10 years, if it ever comes to fruition, will anyone really care about going to North Korea? Because all you think about when you think about North Korea is just a very dark, controlled state. So will you have the same feeling about wanting to travel to North Korea? Because personally, I don't.
I'm curious, but not so curious. And I mean, you say dark. I mean, literally in the dark. If you look at that map of satellite, of what it looks like in the evenings, the whole area is lit up except for North Korea. It's dark there. So it's not like Cuba in the sense that they could just flip a switch and open up tourism. They have no real infrastructure. They don't even have like food
Right.
and these basic things. So I think that they're so far away from being in a place they could even consider something like that I don't really think it's realistic in the near term.
I agree 100%. I just like to shock you sometimes.
No, and that's good. I like it. I like that you keep me fresh because I'm really tired of being the one to ask all the questions all the time in my career.
What, Glenn, I couldn't imagine being you for a day. But let me imagine it for
That's
at least
actually
a minute.
Anthony's actually insulting me there. I can't imagine being you for a day.
So let me imagine you for a few minutes. So, do you think
Yeah.
us shaking hands with North Korea was the right thing to do?
I think it was the right thing to do as opposed to giving them middle finger. I just don't think that there's much hope or possibility for it. Now, this is not a comment based on how I do or do not feel about the current administration. I'm just looking at the way dictators behave and the past 60 plus years of history. And I think that you need to take all of these things with a grain of salt. And all of the news coverage that I'm seeing and all of the comments on Facebook and social media, there's a good chunk of them that are saying this is the biggest thing to happen of all time. I think we should all just put the brakes on a little bit, take a deep breath, and see how things shake out in the
I'm
next
just
6 months.
confused because you said dictator. Which one?
Did you see? I don't know if anyone saw this on Fox News. One of the commentators said it's too
dictator. That's why I bring it up. Not my words. Not my words.
No, but we're just commenting on how funny that was, not taking any
But
sides
I also
here.
don't think. I think we have to break out a little bit, Glenn. We have to be somewhat controversial sometimes.
Yeah.
So what I'm doing today to be controversial is
Yeah.
I'm wearing 2 different color socks.
Ooh.
I'm out of my mind today.
Wow, this guy is crazy. I don't even think I could deal with you. I'm feeling like the ratings for this podcast are going to go straight down the toilet after this one. We're being too controversial.
We can go further down. I didn't realize.
Well, my mom could stop listening.
So, what is the most interesting thing happening in travel today?
That's a really broad-based question. That's a type.
No, I'm sorry, let me go slow. What's the most interesting thing that is happening in travel today? He said that because he doesn't have an answer, so he's going to say it's too broad-based. No, it's not. What's the most interesting happening in travel? Answer the question.
Well, I'm so much more of a hotel guy, so I immediately need to go to my hotel universe of things. And I think that the first thing that comes to mind is the whole idea of over-tourism now that we're seeing out there, right? You see it in Amsterdam, where that's occurring. You see it in Venice, where it's happening, and I think it's starting to bubble up in other markets. Some say it's because Airbnb is becoming ubiquitous in these types of markets and driving a lot of people, but I also tend to think that over-tourism is a real issue because all of a sudden people have the means to travel, and more people than ever are going to these beloved places that we want to see. Look at Iceland. Look at Machu Picchu. There's a lot of places in the world that are attracting all these. Angkor Wat would be another one. All of these great places that people want to see and experience, but because people want to covet them so much, Galapagos Islands is another one, there's a danger that what people love about them could be ruined because of the people's love for what made them so interesting in the first place. That's what I'm thinking.
Wow.
I know. I'm pretty impressed I actually came up with that. I was going to say, free waffles at breakfast, but,
Well, I think but what happens is we have an attention span of 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So, the hot topic today is Iceland.
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Right, exactly. The
Yeah.
hot topic was Iceland.
Right.
By the time this airs, it may be, Michigan. I don't know.
Right.
It may be somewhere else. So I don't know. I think what happens if that happens, those countries, those places have a really good way of reacting. Like Iceland, I keep saying Iceland because I was there 6 months ago and they're not ready for prime time.
Right.
Hate to tell you people, but if you want to stay in Airbnbs, great. There's a lot of them. But if you want to stay in hotels, good luck. But they're building them at a rapid pace, and the hospitality industry is really getting to the next level. But when I was there shooting a show, they weren't ready for prime time, but the places like that have a tendency of getting ready for prime time because there's a lot of money and a lot of taxes involved.
Right. Which show were you filming at the time?
I was filming Extreme Hotels. We were showing you great mountain hotels, and we were at the base of mountains, and we went mountain climbing and ice climbing. And did I tell you about the time I was wearing a rubber suit, Glenn?
The time you're wearing a rubber suit. Okay, I got to hear this one, but
Okay. So, all right, Glenn, picture this. We're in Iceland.
I'm thinking of that old Woody Allen movie where he was where he was dressed as a sperm for some reason.
I think Woody Allen's a sperm. Yeah. So, think about this. The show is called Extreme Hotels.
Right.
You can get it. It's on Travel Channel. It repeats sometimes, and it's on Amazon Prime. So you can find it. It's Extreme Hotels, and we went all over the world looking for the best ski hotels, the best water hotels, the scariest hotels, the most bizarre hotels, airplanes, trains, automobile hotels. And so we found ourselves in Iceland doing the Mountain Hotel. And I'm I'm ice climbing. We're in the parking lot, and we're waiting to go up an ice climb. And when I say we, I mean me and my crew. Actually, no, my cameraman went with me. I was like, there's no way we're ice climbing. One, I really don't want to because I'm a little nervous. Number two, it's pouring rain. Number three, it's cold. Number four, it's cloudy and just miserable out. And I don't want to go. So this central casting ice climbing instructor comes up to me and says, "You ready?" And I'm like, "I'm ready for what?" And he throws a rubber suit at me. And he goes, "Let's go ice climbing." I was like, son of a bitch. And my director and my producers were like so excited because they can't wait for me to fall off that mountain. So we go up, and my director decides that the left side of the mountain is the best for camera. And the gentleman...
Well, every mountain has its good side.
Right.
You know that,
every
right?
mountain has its good side. Very good, right? And, he was dying to pounce on something. And so,
listen, I just want to be able to talk occasionally. It's so hard to get a word in with you. You've got such fluidity.
Wait. He asked me to be part of the podcast, and then he expects me to let him talk.
I didn't really mean it.
What's wrong with him? So we go... Do you want to hear the story or not, Glenn?
No, I definitely want to hear the story, but I'm just thinking about... I thought this was an Ask Glenn question show, but go on.
Well, it is, but I asked you a question and then I answered it for you. Yeah. So he said, go to the left side of the mountain. So the gentleman, being a gentleman, said, no problem. So we're up there, and what he's doing with his pick is he's taking, anytime you see a white cap, he just takes it and he moves the snow around to see if there's a hole underneath. Because if you don't see ice and all you see is snow, there may be a hole under that ice. So a couple times he pushes the snow away and there's a hole and we walk around it. And I don't know, I wasn't paying attention, Glenn.
Right.
And my foot went through the snow.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. And so I fall, and about half my body falls, but the hole wasn't big enough to take my whole body. I'm tethered to him, he's tethered to the mountain. Well, it's raining and I'm wearing a rubber suit. And why are those two things important when you fall through a hole?
I would think that there is a lot less friction at this point, and getting you out might be a challenge. No?
Because if you urinate on yourself and you're wearing a rubber suit and it's raining, no one's really going to be able to tell.
I like that. That's a great travel tip. We should write that one down.
And I peed all over myself. Literally not kidding. I was so scared I peed on myself.
Oh my God.
So after I realized I urinated all over myself, I say to the gentleman, I just peed all over myself. He goes, good thing you're wearing a rubber suit. Then I asked him, I said, why are we going this way? He said, well, your director wanted us to go this way because it's a better shot. I go, well, how often do you come this way? He goes, never. We're not allowed to be over here because it's too dangerous. Well, all you heard through Iceland was something like the F word followed by the name Bill, followed by the F word, followed by the name Bill, who's my director, and a lot of other curse words. And then I got down, and me and him have been working together for quite a number of years, and he knows when I'm quiet, not a good time,
right.
Especially if I have an ice pick in my hand. And he was about to explain his thinking.
Right.
And he saw the blackness of my eyes, and we didn't talk the rest of the day.
Well, it's funny. I see the blackness of your heart in every episode here.
Well, he almost killed me, so you can have a great show. So when you see the show, when you see the Ice Hotel show, or actually it's Extreme Hotels, and we're in Iceland, you'll know the backstory.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm always amazed that everybody's like, that guy that's featured on the show is doing such a great thing, but the guy right behind him is also doing exactly the same thing, but schlepping a really heavy camera with him.
I'm glad you said that. What do they say? Ginger Rogers did everything Fred Astaire did, just backwards
right.
and in heels.
Yeah.
So there's a shot I actually have that I put on Instagram. is my cameraman, Patrick, is a rafter and a mountain climber. And just really just outdoorsy guy. And he's smiling and he's walking backwards up the ice, down the ice, the side of the ice, doing backflips off the ice, holding the camera, smiling the whole way, gets down like he just literally walked through Central Park on a Sunday afternoon when it's nice and sunny. And I come down with urine all over myself.
Right. Nice. I like that. And I think it ties nicely into the over-tourism thing, because one of the things that they have a problem with in Amsterdam is urine. They've got those little outdoor, little booths to piss in, which is really hysterical,
I think
too.
we use the word urine and piss too much, so let's move on.
Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit more
Let's talk about duty.
So, we're talking about DUTY, what you have to pay sometimes when you go in and out of these foreign countries. But when it does come to over-tourism, what do you think about this particular issue? Is there something we can do about this issue, or maybe it's not really an issue at all?
My personal take, it's not an issue because people have very short-term memories. So I think it takes care of itself. It's like anything else, right? The more you go someplace, the place starts to invest. There's more tax dollars, and it starts to, it starts to take care of itself. Look at Maui, for instance. Right? I go to Maui. I never know there's anybody there. I can go the busiest week of the year. I never feel like anybody's there because there's enough capacity now to handle all the tourism. So I don't think it's a real issue. That's my personal opinion. Someone else may think it's a real issue. I think it's temporary. I think any place you go that has over-tourism is a temporary issue. You go to New York. 61 million people last year. We've broken a record. I think 5 years ago it was 51 million. Now we're at 61 million. Every year we're breaking a record. Broadway, biggest year in Broadway history. We went from 75,000 rooms to 125,000 rooms in New York City in the last 6 years. Over tourism, I think New York City's, try to get through Times Square on during Christmas season.
Any day, Christmas season, it's like nearly impossible. But what they've done in the city, when Bloomberg was our mayor of New York City, they closed down one of the avenues. Times Square is the crossroads of the world. Literally, they're Broadway crossed with another major street that went right through Times Square. So they closed off all of the Broadway itself in there, and they made it so there's parks and places to sit and a lot of open spaces. Relieved pressure for about an hour, and then lots more people started coming in.
100%. Yeah. I was going to say, you're making an argument, you're agreeing with me that we figure it out. But then you have the High Line, so now everybody's up on the High Line.
I love that High Line. And if, for you listeners out there, if you haven't been on the High Line, it's on the Lower West Side in the Meatpacking District in New York. It's an old railroad track that's high. It's suspended above the city, and it is the coolest thing. What was once a rotting piece of infrastructure is now one of the coolest parks on the planet.
And a lot of cities around the country are duplicating it. When you get a New Yorker such as myself, 53 years, grew up in New York and just love the city, and you walk on the High Line for the first time in your life, and you go, oh my God, they nailed it. It's amazing. This is the best place in the world. I call everybody and said, do not come to New York City without going to the High Line. So I can't get enough of the High Line, and they did an absolutely amazing job on every level.
It's the best. And I remember when I was a kid going into the city with my parents and seeing the High Line, and it wasn't the High Line, it was just a rusty old tracks. And I used to think about how awesome it was because those trains went into buildings and then out the other side of buildings.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to explain what the High Line is, because for our audience members, they may not know there was actually a use for that rail track. And what was it?
There was a lot of industrial uses on the west side of Manhattan. I just mentioned the Meatpacking District and a lot of other businesses there too. So the rail cars would literally come into the buildings, they'd unload, they'd load, and then they could take their goods away with them on the trains.
Right. And how cool is that?
It was so freaking cool.
Right. And what started the Meatpacking District? What started just the rebuilding of the Meatpacking? Let me see if I can speak English. Yeah. What started the rebuilding of the Meatpacking District?
I'll say either the Gansevoort Hotel or Stella McCartney opening her shop.
Nope.
What was it to you?
Hogs and Heifers.
Oh my God, you're absolutely right. Oh my God, I used to go to Hogs and Heifers way back in the day, and but I was in my 20s at the time, and I'm like, oh, maybe someone will be dancing on the bar and put their bra up on the thing.
Who's the first celebrity to put their bra on the bar?
I don't know. I'll just say Julia Roberts. I think I was
Done.
right. Yeah.
Done. Very good. So tell me what Hogs and Heifers is.
Barbecue joint in the meatpacking district, and it's like it's real.
You ate there? I've
Dive
never eaten
bar
there.
kind of bar. I did, but I was in my 20s, so I had a rock solid stomach. I could handle anything. Not to
I
besmirch
didn't know
the
they
food.
had food. I just thought they had liquor and bras.
And then. Yeah, and you could drink out of the bras, but that's for another day. All right, so listen, then they had a movie that was made out of it, which was not called Hogs and Heifers. They kind of took the whole concept of it and turned it into that movie, which then became a bar at the New York in Las Vegas, but I'm blanking on the name of that now.
Well, if you keep the audience entertained by tap dancing, I'll Google it.
Yeah. I was actually, just for those of you who know, my grandfather was actually a song and dance man. He wrote jokes for Henny Youngman.
Did he really?
Yeah, it was pretty cool back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s and that kind of era. So I got a little bit of that. Unfortunately, just the bad part of it. But I remember growing up, he would always tap dance and sing, and I'd look at guys like Sammy Davis Jr. and Savion Glover. Best tap dancing. You found the answer. I'm done tap dancing.
That commercial was brought to you by Glenn Haussman and Haussman family. Coyote Ugly.
Oh, Coyote Ugly, yeah.
Coyote Ugly.
With Diablo Cody. No, that was not Diablo Cody. She didn't write that one. Damn, I'm totally
Coyote
forgetting
Ugly
now.
with Diablo Cody.
I don't know.
So, yes, if you haven't been to the High Line, please, you must stop by New York City and the High Line. So, New York City, is it over tourism?
No, but I also think New York City is so big that it could support it. But how about let me counter that by bringing up the Venice argument now,
yes.
because people
Yeah,
are
that's so
saying
funny. I was just talking about that.
I think it's hard to say that over-tourism is not going to be hurting the area. But I also think it's a self-inflicted wound because Airbnb is now so prevalent there that it's really raised the number of people that are staying there.
I can't disagree with you, my friend. And I think, but we all have to know what we want and what we don't want. I don't want to go to Venice. People always say to me, it's like, what are you, crazy? I don't want to go. It is overcrowded, and it's not something I really want to see. And I love Italy, and I love all parts of Italy. I don't have a desire to go. I'll probably eventually wind up going, but it's not something I want to see.
Well, I can't imagine it's much different than the gondola ride that they have at the casino in Las Vegas, the Venetian. So, I feel like I've already been there.
I'll tell you a funny story about the Venetian. My best friend who's passed away, it's 6-year anniversary last week, and we're in Vegas at the Venetian Hotel, and he's just a good old boy from New Jersey,
Right.
and we met in the Air Force, and my dearest friend, and I'm showing him Vegas, and we look at the Venetian ceiling, and he goes, "Wow, it's so nice out today." And I said, "Dummy, you're inside." And he goes, "No, man, we're not inside. We're outside.
Look
It's
at this-
beautiful.
look at
the
these clouds."
I was like, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you saw a smoke detector in a cloud? Have you ever seen a smoke detector in a cloud? But that's what a great job they did.
They really did. And here's my little my little fact. I think that there's well over 500 paintings that they put up on the ceiling, and they didn't actually paint the ceiling like the Sistine Chapel. They're just they're prints that they just glued up on there. So that's my little Vegas fact of the week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, what else are we going to talk about? Let's ask Anthony a question.
Let's ask Anthony a question. Anthony, what's the best restaurant that you've been to in the last 2 months, and why?
I was to a restaurant in Texas, and it's called Dirty Al's.
Dirty. I thought you were going to ask me to have to tap dance again. I was
For those of you who didn't see my eyes, I was struggling to get the words out of my mouth. Dirty Al's. Now, Dirty Al's is a shrimp place, right? And I walk in, and Dirty Al's really isn't dirty, but it's kind of cool, and it's on the dock of the area where I was.
I thought maybe it was named after Al Goldstein, New York's original pornographer.
Oh, that's right, Dirty Al's. And I walk in, and I'll be honest with you, I was intrigued because it's an authentic little kind of seafood place, and this young lady comes over to the table, and her smile could light up Times Square. And immediately just looked at her and said, wherever I go in the world to open a hotel or restaurant, I got to go back and get her to be my hostess or my manager or whatever she wants to do. Just the most delightful person I've ever come in contact with in the service industry. She just not only she smiled, she was just the most delightful waitress ever. And the shrimp wasn't great. It just wasn't. But it's my favorite restaurant that I've been in the last 2 months because of her smile.
Oh, well, there you go. I love that, and that's so important when you're talking about staff to have the right type of person and the right type of personality to get folks that are really excited about it. And even if the food isn't all that terrific, at least the personality will stand in for that deficit. So, Anthony, before we wrap up here today,
and I was in South Padre Island in Texas.
Ooh.
So it was Dirty Al's in South Padre, Texas.
All right, so be sure to tell us your reviews of Dirty Al's in South Padre, Texas. Write in and let us know. So, Anthony, before we go today, we got to do our last segment. Tell me something I don't know.
You don't know that I once had a moped, and I used to drive the moped everywhere when I was in Brooklyn. And my girlfriend at the time hated that I would drive that moped, and she broke up with me.
Oh, that's so sad. That's terrible. Well, I will tell you something that you don't know about me in the same thing. Now, coming from a Jewish family, my parents were a little bit
Jewish. Get the hell out of here.
I know it's hard to tell, right? But you know what? My parents were always a little bit anxious and nervous, which is something that's going to happen with the domesticated American Jew out there, and I really wanted a new car when I was in college, right? I was in my third year of college. I was starting to have a little bit more freedom, wanted to get around. So I knew they would never buy me a car. So I saved enough money to buy a motorcycle, threatened to buy them a motorcycle. They chipped in some money, got me a used car.
Now that's something I didn't know. Now if that was an Italian family, you'd be like,
Yeah.
So they wouldn't buy me a car. So what I did was I hotwired my own and I stole one.
It sounds about right. Totally legitimate.
So ask me what I'm doing Thursday night.
Anthony, I'd love to know, what are you doing on Thursday night?
My dearest friend, Leo Rossi, who's an actor in Hollywood, look him up. Leo Rossi's been accused and analyzed this, and I'm incredibly proud of the guy because he's been an actor for years and years and years, and now he's a writer, and he wrote the new John Travolta movie.
Oh, cool.
The Gotti movie.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm going to hang out with John Travolta and see the Gotti movie, and my dearest friend, Leo Rossi, who's just one of the greatest humans you'll ever meet in your life, wrote the movie.
So how did he research this role?
He actually spent 6 months with John Gotti Jr.
Wow.
In Howard Beach and in different places in Queens and in New York, and just basically picked his brain for 6 months because, believe it or not, John Gotti Jr. had last sign-off on the movie.
Oh, that's interesting.
And you'll see things in the movie you've never heard or seen before that it's completely authentic.
And he allowed certain things to be shared in this movie.
That's what makes it even more interesting. So, but my friend Leo wrote it, and Thursday I'm going to go see it, and I'm really excited about it.
Does it have an official release date? I believe when we were talking offline, you mentioned that it's going to be released in theaters around the country.
Friday.
So it's actually coming out this week, which is in the past when you all hear this. Hopefully you'll be able to check it out. If not in the theaters, and on video on demand and all the great places where you can watch shows. And while you're watching shows online, be sure to check out Anthony's shows on Amazon Prime, Travel Channel, probably the Travel Channel app, and other places too. Anthony, any final words for today?
Yes, I do have final words.
Oh, beautiful.
It is just an honor and a privilege to spend any amount of time with you, Glenn, and I really, really thank you.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, and I guess it must be April 1st. That's what I'm thinking over here. Andy, it's always great to do these shows with you. I'm loving doing this series with you, and I'm having a lot of fun for each and all of you listeners catching us each week. And if you haven't listened to the show before, thanks for joining us, and be sure to listen to all those catalog shows too, because they are great as well. All because I got the amazing Anthony Melchiorri here. So for Anthony and myself, Glenn Haussman, thanks for listening. Unless you got something else to say.
ABC, yeah.
All right, ABC and you too. Take care. Bye-bye.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.